Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage and the first video of 2023. I am hoping to get the engine on the Datsun 120Y to run perfectly today. Right now I'm refitting the carb because I have just taken that off to clean it really quickly once again, because some of you might remember I did a pretty thorough clean on this in a previous video. But I didn't change the fuel filter, and I'm going to change that now. But to make sure that it wasn't full of crap once again, I just quickly took it off and checked it over and cleaned it out. Yeah, there is some crap down there, but it is not that bad. But a new filter is definitely due. Not in the sonic cleaner or anything, just a real quick old school clean. Now I'm going to change the fuel filter, then we're going to start it up, adjust the timing, and then change the oil and the filter once we get the engine hot. And yeah, I would just like to get it to run right. It's still not running completely right. It is still struggling at idle, and there's some stuff wrong, but I think we're close to fixing everything. But let's change that fuel filter. And right there we have a very dirty fuel filter. And not only that, we have some, I'm actually tempted to say that these fuel lines are fine, but I'm going to change them anyway because you never know how they will react to the new kind of fuel. Also, the clamps are not good anymore. So I'm going to change all the brake, not the brake, did I call them the brake? The fuel lines. I'm going to change all the fuel lines, all the clamps and the fuel filter. And then I'm sure that we don't have any fire hazard coming from that area, at least. This clamp is so bad that I can just pull this one off, yeah, like that. That was a bit too easy. And then I'm just going to cut the fuel line down here because it's easier. Like that. Yep, it is running. So I'm just gonna have to plug it really quickly. Like that. Let's just, for the fun of it, see how bad the old fuel filter actually is. I think we could actually be having some rust issues in the fuel tank. I'm a bit unsure about that. Of course, chances are always high to have rust in old fuel tanks. And often it doesn't matter too much as long as you run a good quality filter and change them often. But sometimes it's too far gone. Maybe it's easier to just cut it. So there is a bit of rust, but considering that this car has been standing for ages, I don't think it's that bad. But it is there. So let's do an inspection of the fuel tank. So maybe you can see we have some kind of rust down there. Maybe I should try to record this. There is some that looks like rust on the side of the wall, but let's try to touch it. You can see that I can scrape in it. So it's some kind of sludgy stuff. And I can't really see, I think the fuel looks pretty clean, but it's difficult to say because I see reflections of the red stuff, but I don't think the fuel tank is too bad. Not to the point that I want to take it out and clean it. But of course it would like a couple of flushes through the system with new fresh fuel. And maybe a new fuel filter in a while. In a couple of hundred kilometers to be sure. But I don't think this is too bad. I'm gonna chance it. So I made a new fuel filter ready with new fuel lines and all that. Nice and clear, so it's possible to look through it, and I actually think that was the case on the old one also, but not anymore. But this makes it possible to follow along the process of cleaning that gunk out of the tank, if it's even getting this far. We'll see about that, but yeah, this is nice. I'm gonna fit it. We're gonna have to do it a little bit quickly because fuel is going to come out of this. I'm gonna pull this one off. Like that. And then get that Jubilee clip down there also. Then I'm just gonna try to crank the car for a while and see what kind of fuel comes up there. As you can hear, it is running a lot better, but still not perfect. Right now I'm just waiting for it to heat up to normal operating temperature, and then I'm gonna set the idle, check the dwell, and adjust the timing, and then hopefully it is as good as it's going to get. There is a little bit of rusty sediment in the new fuel filter. It's not a lot. It could become an issue. If it becomes an issue, then I will have to clean the carb out once again and clean the tank. But I think what I'm going to do is to just drive it when I get it through the MOT, of course. Drive it maybe a tank full, change the filter, another tank full, change the filter again, and then I think it's good to go because it's not a lot. I think it will be fine. If not, then the tank is coming out and then it needs to be cleaned. It is a bit, it's not that bad on this one because it's not underneath the car, it is in the trunk, the fuel tank, so it shouldn't be too bad to clean. But let's see, I think it will be okay. So the engine is slowly getting up to temperature so that I can check the idle, the dwell angle, and the timing. Carb right now has a anti-tamper thing on the mixture screw, so I'm not going to be able to alter that unless I cut it off. So I'm not going to mess with that just now because I have no suspicion that that should be out of whack in any way. So if everything sounds right and it doesn't smell too much, then it should be fine. The squeaking sound you can hear is from the alternator, which is producing quite a lot of power because the battery is really low. And the fan belt is slightly loose, so it's a bit annoying. Just a second, I'm just going to shut it off. I'm just going to tighten it up a bit because it's really annoying to listen to. But another thing that's a good thing to do on a car you don't know the service story about is to check the valve clearance. But I'm not going to do that, at least not today, because maybe you could hear it before. The engine sounds perfect in that regard. There is no noise, but that could of course mean that they are tight. But I'm not going to check it today anyway. And the normal thing for valves to be is loose, not tight all of a sudden. But of course I wouldn't. It could be, but I'm not going to do anything about it today. And another reason why I'm not going to change the valve clearance, or not change, but check the valve clearance today is that I have a leaking valve cover gasket. If I take it off, it could become extremely bad. So I'm not going to do that before I got a new one. The engine is hot now, so I'm going to fire it up, and then we're going to check the idle speed. So I have to be very careful about those blades over there. But what I'm going to do now is to check the idle speed. As you can see, the idle speed is slightly high. I'm not sure where it's supposed to be. I think it's around 600 or 700 or around that mark. So I'm going to try to lower it. I cannot get it to go any lower than this, but that could be because the ignition is way off. That's just linkage. I think the cable is adjusted a little bit too tight. Yeah, that's better. So, what are we at now? I'm gonna see if I can hit around 700. That's nice. Next up, I'm gonna check the dwell angle, which is supposed to be between 49 and 55. I'm just gonna touch it right down there. And it's reading 53.2, around 54, so that is fine. The high end of the scale, but that's just fine. So next up, I'm going to switch the engine off because now we're going to check the timing. To do that, I'm just going to mark the timing point on the flywheel, because that will just make it a lot easier to see what we're doing. But firstly, we have to find it. There it is. So I'm just going to give that a dab of paint because it's easier to see it then. So right now it is around 12 or 15, I think. I'm really having some issues with my timing gun. It seems to have a bad bulb. But I'd say 15. And then turn it. I'd say that's right about there. Then I'm going to reattach the vacuum advance like that. And I'm going to check the idle speed once again. It's being cheated by something. I'm going to turn it up a little bit. According to the manual, 600 is actually what we want. So that should be fine. So of course we could also do a tune-up on the mixture screw down there, but there's an anti-tamper on it and I don't really know how to get it off, but I have no reason to think that this is out of adjustment, so I think it's just fine. Another thing is the float level in the carb can actually be checked on this one from the outside. It needs to be bang on in the middle, which it is. It's hard to see from this angle, but it is just fine. We're gonna refit the air filter and then take you back. Next up, let's change the oil. Oh, that was tight. Oh, it smells of old gasoline, that oil. That's pretty normal, especially for a car that has been hard to start for a while. But it also means that it's very important to change the oil because it's diluted by gas, which is not a good lubricant. So it's about time to change this. Other than that, it's not that black actually, but that could be because of the diluted gas. So I went ahead and removed the engine guard down here to get to the to get to the oil filter. It looks really clean. So once again, I think it has been serviced at one point and not driven afterwards, but also the oil is smelling of stale fuel, so it needs to be changed. And who knows how old it is. So it needs to happen. And some new oil into the new filter, just to help it get going. If you don't do this, you could start the engine up with really low oil pressure until it fills up the filter. There's really no reason to do that. Go in there and put it on. And then some fresh honey up here. Oh, and the last thing, new air filter. Listen to that return to idle. It sounds so much like it's going to cut out, but it just catches so smoothly. Ah, that's nice. So this is going to be all for this video. Next time I think it's going to be the coolant system. I would really like to just drain it and change it to make sure that everything is okay. It seems to be running pretty nicely now. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with the result, and now I can rev it and drive it, and that's really good. Thank you for watching, and see you in the next one.